Good morning. Happy Earth Day. Our call to community this morning is Put Your Roots Down. And I learned it from a video by the Thrive Street Choir, but I just found out this morning that Marco learned it a couple of weeks ago from somebody who learned it from the person who wrote it. So I'm going to try to find some more information about that. Why don't you guys stand up? We're going to all sing it together as you feel comfortable. We sang it a couple weeks ago. I'm going to start teaching it as a call and response. So I'll sing one part, and then you sing one part. Put your roots down, put your feet on the ground.
Put your roots down, put your feet on the ground.
I said, put your roots down, put your feet on the ground.
Put your roots down, put your feet on the ground.
You can hear the earth sing if you listen.
You can hear the earth sing if you listen.
You can hear the earth sing if you listen.
You can hear the earth sing if you listen.
Do that all now, everybody. Put your roots down, put your feet on the ground. You can hear the earth sing if you listen. I said, put your roots down, put your feet on the ground. You can hear the earth sing if you listen. Now we're going to do the call and response for the second part. 'Cause the sound of the river as it moves across the stones. 'Cause the sound of the river as it moves across the stones is the same sound as the blood in your body as it moves across your bones. Is the same sound as the blood in your body as it moves across your bones. Are you listening? Are you listening? Okay, now we're going to do that whole second part all together. Sorry, wait. Here we go. 'Cause the sound of the river as it moves across the stones is the same sound as the blood in your body as it moves across your bones. Are you listening? Again, are you listening? Okay, now we do the whole thing. Put your roots down, put your feet on the ground. You can hear the earth sing if you listen. I said, put your roots down, put your feet on the ground. You can hear the earth sing if you listen. 'Cause the sound of the river as it moves across the stones is the same sound as the blood in your body as it moves across your bones. Are you listening? Are you listening? All right, the whole thing. One more time. Put your roots down, put your feet on the ground. You can hear the earth sing if you listen. I said, put your roots down, put your feet on the ground. You can hear the earth sing if you listen. 'Cause the sound of the river as it moves across the stones is the same sound as the blood in your body as it moves across your bones. Are you listening? Are you listening? Are you listening?
Welcome to the Westside Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Rick Taylor, a member of the worship team, and it is my great joy to be gathering with you this day with our minister, Carter Smith, Scott Farrell, and the Chalice Singers. Scott and Larry Jones are providing the music, along with Cora Angel. Calder and Jasper Staley are lighting our chalice, and Lucy Sukarski and Jim Schlau will be sharing our time for all ages. Henry Sakura and Nate Messnard are our tech experts, bringing us in the sanctuary together with those joining us remotely. And for the gift of all these folks, we are grateful. It's a blessing to be able to worship together and to be here with you today. If you're with us for the first time or the first time in a while, welcome. We're so glad that you're here to share in this time, to make some space in your life, to attend to your heart and your spirit, to come together in community. Please visit our website or scan the QR code on the card in the pews to fill out a Getting to Know You welcome form so that we can send you our weekly electronic newsletter, The West Side Week, which is full of information about upcoming worship services and other congregational activities, both in person and online. Everyone, let's gather together after the service for conversation and community so that we can catch up with each other and greet our newcomers on this West Seattle day. We gather today from many locations, and we take this moment to particularly acknowledge that our congregation resides on the traditional territory of the Duwamish people. In this acknowledgement, we recognize the Duwamish heritage imbued in the mountains, valleys, waterways, and shorelines that surround us all. May we nurture our relationships with our coastal Salish neighbors, especially the Duwamish people, and our shared responsibilities to this place. Let us take a moment to offer humble respect for this place and its peoples and renew our commitments to the work of authentic reconciliation. Whoever you are, wherever you've come from, whatever the color of your skin, whoever and however you love, however your body moves and your brain works, however you identify, you are welcome in this faith community. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition has no test of faith, no creed or oath to swear. We have instead the promises we make to one another, commitments we make to heal a hurting world within and beyond our walls. It's good to see familiar faces and new faces. Let's take a moment to greet each other.
It's great to see such enthusiastic greeting happening, and I hope it continues after the service. Our opening words this morning are from Lynn Harrison. She writes, "Committed to respond to the call of a wounded world, we join together this day with loving hearts, hands, and minds. Embracing the interconnected web of water, air, and earth, we light a fire of sustaining hope, ever bright with love and justice. May we bring forth this day new wisdom, strength, and courage to create a new world not of wealth but of well-being, a world of new peace and abundance for all, as we give thanks for this earth, our shared and singular home. May we dedicate ourselves to its ongoing care, rising to the calls deep within us and all around us. May we respond today with courage and with love, and may we gather and worship together."
Lighting the chalice is a service sometime after turning 7 is a beautiful rite of passage in our Unitarian Universalist community. Today, we welcome Calder and Jasper Staley to join in this tradition. Their bios and photos will be added to Westside's Book of Chalice Lighters that goes back many years. Calder and Jasper live in West Seattle with their parents, Vaughn and Brennan. They have been attending Westside and are excited to get more involved. Calder is 12 and Jasper is 9. The things that are most important to them are food, friendship, family, and cats. They also say that video games are very important. One of their favorite things to do together is to make up new games and then argue about the rules. As Calder and Jasper Staley light our chalice, please join me in speaking the words of our congregation's affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Please rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 298, Wake Now My Senses. I think that the lyrics are up there, but if you want to look in the book, we're going to sing all 5 verses.
It is now time for our Time for All Ages, and Lucy Sukarski and Jim Schlau will be sharing a conversation with us. Lucy is a fourth grader who is passionate about animals and caring for them in our world. And Jim is one of our community's elders who is passionate about climate change issues. Anyone of any age who wishes to see or hear our Time for All Ages better, please come down to sit on the floor or in the front pews. While we gather, let me tell you about the religious exploration activities going on this morning. Today we have a special announcement about our nursery. Our nursery space is beautiful and staffed with caring and capable volunteers, fully masked, ready to work with infants and toddlers up to age 4. We haven't had any littles in that space for a long time, and we would love to talk to any parents of children under age 5 about your needs and considerations. We wholeheartedly invite your connection at dre@wsuu.org, Jade Wild. Our nursery team is Marie Kaz, Naomi Rue, Amy Youngblood, and Amanda Meyer, and the nursery is located through these doors just to the right of me. Our 5 to 12-year-olds are invited to RE class in the social hall, and we also have a class just for our 7th to 12th grade youth in the fireside room, where you will be brainstorming ideas for youth leadership in environmental justice.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to be here. And good morning, Lucy.
Morning, Jim.
This is a pretty special opportunity for us to be here together talking about what is important to us about the earth that is our home and being able to bring such different perspectives. So what grade are you in, Lucy?
I'm a 4th grader and I'm 10 years old.
How old are you?
Well, I've got a few decades on you at 77. When I was a 4th grader, it was 1955, and the world was a different place in many ways.
How was it different for you?
Well, the climate really didn't seem a lot different, but human memories aren't scientific fact. We lived in the countryside in Pennsylvania, and my brother and I had lots of land to roam about. Life seemed simpler, no internet, just a black and white TV that got 3 stations. There was really no idea about climate change back then. Our house was heated with coal, a coal furnace, and most cars got like 12 miles a gallon on gas. We had a 6,500-mile family car trip to Alberta, Canada when I was young. So even back then, we were putting a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. But there were less than 3 billion people on the planet then. Today, it's 8 billion. Do you wish you could live back then?
I can't imagine it. No internet. And how would I get to Florida to visit my grandmother?
Well, life has changed a lot on our planet since then. Do you think it will change much by the time you get to be my age?
I just hope that all the things we hear about the earth getting ruined with pollution doesn't happen. I worry that lots of plants and animals will disappear.
So do you think that polluting the atmosphere is actually changing the climate? How can you tell?
I can't tell based on my own experience. I've only been around here for 10 years, but it's all in the news and in the movies and on the internet. And I've seen the pictures of the glaciers, how they're melting, and the polar bears need more ice for the way they live. My mom says it's real too. I know it can take years to see the changes, like with the glaciers melting.
That's a great example. When you study history from millions of years ago, we know that things have changed from the past quite a bit. But the development of climate change is so subtle that we don't see it. It takes collecting centuries of data and complicated study to understand what's really happening. In our daily lives, we don't see evidence of it. We do see litter, and it's not great for the environment, but litter is not climate change. Climate change has a deeper and more significant impact. In the past, when things changed, they changed very slowly. It would take 1 million years to make some things happen, that we might make happen in 500 years. When it takes 1,000,000 years, all the plants and animals have time to adjust. But now, with changes happening more quickly, the plants and animals can't move fast enough to newer environments.
That's scary to me. I know that science is showing how things are getting warmer and colder, and things are changing for animals and making it harder for them to live. I really care about animals, and I'm worried about what will happen to them if we don't take care of our planet. So, what have you done to help protect us from climate change?
Not nearly as much as I could have. Of course, the easy things, turning off lights, reading about climate change to understand it better, voting in a way that helps support the environment, trying to do a good job with recycling and things like that, and trying to minimize travel. I try not to fly too much and try to use the bus sometimes. We replaced our oil furnace with a heat pump, and I've joined the environmental justice group here at Westside. But really, when you come down to it, we all have to do more.
So how will we save our Earth? Why don't grown-ups do something to make a real difference?
This might help explain it. My son was in the Peace Corps 20 years ago, and my wife and I got to visit him where he served in Mali in West Africa. I remember seeing hundreds, maybe thousands of plastic bags all across the countryside. It seemed every bush was decorated with them. My son explained that until recently, most everything the people used there was a natural product and too valuable to just be thrown away. They didn't have much trash. In one generation, a change in technology created the cheap plastic bag that will last for years. They didn't know how to adapt to that change. It might take 1,000 years for those plastic bags to decompose. We humans don't seem to be able to adapt when change causes bad things to happen. We just want to keep doing what's quicker or cheaper, and often choose to do what's more convenient.
We have a lot of litter and plastic around here in Seattle too, and lots of it ends up in the ocean where it hurts the animals there.
That's true. Our litter can get into the sewage that ultimately can carry it to the ocean. So, Lucy, are you afraid of the future?
Depending on what's going to happen, yes, I am afraid. If people don't do anything about climate change and keep doing things that cause it, then what's going to happen? Then what's going to be the future for my kids, if I have kids, and their kids after that? I don't think I will experience too much in my childhood, but unless we do something, I feel like in the future it could be bad. If all the scientists came together to work on the environment, that would be amazing. I don't frankly want to have to go to live on Mars where your blood could boil in 1 second and freeze in another.
I understand that fear. Deep down, I think the environment is the #1 issue facing the human race. And I think we have to push ourselves on it. It also very much gets into equity. If things go badly, some people will immediately suffer more than others.
Yeah, some people don't have the resources they need to deal with lots of changes happening because of climate change, like water rising or the weather getting more hot or cold. They will have trouble surviving because they may not have the resources to just move. I feel really passionate about the environment too. My mom reminded me that a few years ago, I actually got in a fight on Earth Day. My classmate was ripping leaves off a tree at recess, and she wouldn't stop when I told her to. I really care about nature, and I love animals of all kinds, especially wolves. This Earth Day, instead of fighting, I actually helped our local community by doing a beach cleanup at Golden Gardens. I really want to do more to help my community.
That's really great that you spent time cleaning up Golden Garden Beach. Do you wish more people would pitch in to help clean up the environment?
Yeah, I sure do. There's some good things happening too. When I was in Florida last week for spring break, my mom and I saw turtles on the beach. They are nesting and the babies are going to have to find their way back to the ocean safely at night. On this part of the beach, all the people living there agreed to keep their lights off at night so the turtles can follow their instincts in the darkness to go toward the water.
Wow, people working together to help solve the problem. What a concept. I really believe that the first and most important piece is that we humans care enough to do something. Here at our church, we've started to use what we call an equity tool, which makes us think about how the things we decide to do will affect other people. Maybe we could take that idea and turn it into a save the planet tool, where we stop and think about the things we are about to do and ask, how does that impact the environment?
I think that's a good idea. I wish there were more things us kids could do, but we don't get to make the decisions yet, and we don't get to vote. But we're the ones who will end up living with all the problems.
Well, Lucy, there are some things kids can do. You can learn more about climate change so that when you get to make the more decisions, you will know how to make better choices. And you can remind grown-ups to think more about the effects of their choices. Keep educating yourself about the effects of pollution and new technologies on our environment. Then, as you get older, you'll know the most important things to take action on. And remember, keep the pressure on the grown-ups.
I know us kids will do our part.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lucy and Jim, for that wonderful conversation. As our children go out to their classes, down the center aisle, let's all sing As You Go. In a moment, we will engage in our offering, a collective act of generosity when we take time to support Westside UU congregation and its many ministries with our financial gifts. Beyond our regular giving in Sunday services, our operating budget relies on annual pledging by community members to meet our budget needs. Today we have a special stewardship testimony from Tracy Burrows.
Good morning. This morning, as I was considering what to say about why it feels right to invest in Westside's future in this moment, I thought of Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poem, How Do I Love Thee? Let me count the ways. So bear with me as I riff on this poem to show the love for Westside. I love the ways that we've endured. A pandemic, difficult leadership transitions, social change, and social justice movements that have challenged us. Yes, and we are still here, sprouting up new ways to heal ourselves and the earth, as you're going to hear about later today, and setting out on new beginnings, growing out of a really tough time to be healthier than ever. Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poem says, I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need. I love the ways that we gather on Sunday, here and at home, to set aside time to our quiet needs for connection, stillness, reflection, a time to breathe, inspiration, coffee, even sometimes, I admit it, a short, refreshing nap. These are all restorative practices built into our experience here. I love the way our Shannon, Scott, Jade, Reverend Carter, Larry, John model leadership with gratitude, kindness, very capable, caring, and inclusive. And I could name so many people in our congregation who serve as role models for me in different ways. Rick Taylor is absolutely one of them. Creative, caring, and deep. And I don't mean to single him out, but since he's bringing his whole self here to lead us this morning, he came to mind. There's so many others. The people here show us how to live more humanely, with courage and love. I'm so lucky to have a community right here that does this on such a consistent, unexpected, and glorious basis. And I love the ways in which our community continues to nurture and care for me and help me grow. Over these past few months, Westside and our Right Relations work with Pam Orbach has been a tremendous source of personal growth for me. And that growth starts with self-compassion and recognizing and meeting my needs so that I have capacity to care for others. And I can see ways in which I haven't always had that capacity to care for our leaders who've had to make very difficult decisions. And I can see there are ways that I can change to free up that capacity. And it's happening. And the beautiful thing is that my husband Steve told me that my learning has been rubbing off on him and strengthening our relationship. I don't have to pay for marriage counseling. This is awesome. I can see a time soon where we're all going to be rubbing off on each other and expanding our caring exponentially. It works. No, we are on this journey together with our community and in our healing circles at whatever level works for each of us. So isn't that cool? Elizabeth Barrett Browning writes, "I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears, all of my life. And I love all of you for seeing the potential for growth and transformation here at Westside. And I hope all of you are able to think of many other ways that you love and derive support from this community." We're at the tail end of the pledge drive, the stretch run. And if you really know me, you know that I am a competitive person who is learning to live with more compassion. But old habits die hard, and I want to win. And I don't like to think of us as falling short, but rather that we're on our way towards meeting our goal, and we can do this together. So this very morning, we can do this as we're able. So a huge thank you to all of you who've already pledged, and especially to those who've already dug a little deeper to support the drive. Steve and I are going to increase our pledge by 10% this morning via text. So as you're able, please consider stretching to support this beautiful community. Rick's going to talk a little bit about how to do that. I know Shannon has just placed on the back table pledge forms and a way for you to just scan one of those codes and give money this morning. So lots of different ways to give. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. In a minute, when we begin our time of offering, you'll have a chance not only to give to our shared offering, but also to increase your pledge right here and now. If you'd like to designate your gift this morning as part of your pledge, please text abundance, $, and the amount you wish to give to the number that will appear on the screen. Or if you wish to make a commitment to increase your pledge, please write your name and the amount you wish to add to your pledge to the index card that was given to you when you arrived in the sanctuary this morning. You can place this in the basket that will soon be passed around by our ushers. All cash, checks, and text donations that are received this morning and not designated to be a part of your pledge will be given to our shared plates. Each month, we choose a community organization to share 1/3 of our undesignated offering gifts. That is, those donations not designated as your pledge contributions. For the month of April, our community giving recipient is Sound Generations. Sound Generations is a multi-service nonprofit partnering with older adults to remove the inequities that impact aging by providing accessible, essential, and inclusive services that support people through their life's journey. These services include Meals on Wheels, volunteer transportation, personalized guidance for navigating resources, and resources for caregivers, just to name a few. They've been serving King County since 1967. Because our Sunday service has switched to twice monthly, there are fewer Sunday opportunities to extend our generosity to our community partners. Please consider increasing your contribution in each service so that we can continue to support the work of these worthy organizations. And now, as we receive our morning offering, please enjoy this special gift of music, Colors of Wind by Stephen Schwartz, sung by Cora Angel.
Hi.
So Cora's been working on this song, and we're just so proud of what she's been doing with it. It's a great experience.
Think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has
thank you to everyone for giving as you're able to support Westside and Sound Generations. Your generosity of time, treasure, and presence are gifts that sustain us as a community.
I can see I'm not the only one with tears in my eyes. That was beautiful. Each time we gather and worship, we make space for the honoring of joys and sorrows that each of us bring into this community. As a reminder, you can submit joys and sorrows to a form in our weekly newsletter, and please reach out to me if you have any emerging pastoral needs. We have 2 things to share this morning. One is from Ellen Wanless, who shares that her sister-in-law is very ill and requests that we please send some love. Our hearts go out to you and your family. And then also, I have received a note from Joan Whitley about a longtime friend of our community, Sherry Tucker, a greeter here at Westside who has not been able to come recently. Joan visited her at her new home in Aegis Living. Sherry is gregarious and reports enjoying living at Aegis, and she welcomes visits from those who know her. Joan says, "While I miss her greeting with all of her enthusiasm, I'm happy she is in a safe and comfortable living situation." And with those and all that we carry in our hearts, we know that there is a lot in this space. As the seasons change, we experience the joys of new life, of making new memories with those we love. And each of us carries loss in our hearts as well. Losses big and small that accompany us as we show up for each new day. In these days, our hearts ache for the violence in the world, the ongoing war in Ukraine, the outbreak of fighting in Sudan, the gun violence that has become embedded in our lives in this country, the violence being done to ecosystems around us. In addition to the ebbs and flows of our own lives, it can feel like a lot to carry. So let us take this moment to just breathe. It's all we have to do right now. Remember what we carry, the joys and sorrows that are here in this space. Let us hold all of it in tender care, and let our hearts seek peace in this moment. Let us remember we are, each one of us, held by a greater love.
Hello, I'm Riley. I have some good news. There's hope ahead for reducing plastic waste. New plastics that are degrading more quickly are coming online, plant-based substitutes, and a global plastic treaty is due to be signed at the end of next year. But of course, there's some bad news too, such as the switch to clean energy not really bothering big oil because they have begun to implement immense plans they have to put plastic into more and more of our stuff. Our clothing, for example, is now 2/3 synthetic, up from 1/3 synthetic in 2000. 85% of this is going into landfills, and the new social media-driven fast fashion is generating so many tons of disposable clothing that a Swedish power plant partly switched to burning H&M clothing to generate power. When I read about this, I looked around at the plastic in my car and my computer, stove, refrigerator, and felt pretty discouraged. I thought, fashion industry aside, plastic is just too useful. I used to do plumbing, and I can't tell you how wonderful ABS is for drain pipes. It's impossible to see how we can even get along without it anymore, I thought. And then I remembered, I thought, silly goose, your own grandmother lived just fine without plastic. Plastic wasn't widely used until the 1950s, so people who are alive today already know how to live without it. Yes, reducing plastics will be hard, but we can start by asking our grandparents. My grandma used to tell me, go wash your teeth. I asked her, why do you say that way? She said, well, we didn't have plastic toothbrushes, and so we washed our teeth with rags. Oh, so I started thinking and gathering some words and phrases that might give us some sparks of intuition about how we can do things other ways. And I called Ginger, and she helped me figure this out. So this is a spoken word I call Go Ask Grandma. Rags, rubber, string and box, kettle, keg, bottle, cloth, and tin. After you've used it and used it once more, save it in the apple crate next to the door for when the junk man comes again. Lunch pail, diaper pail, keg, barrel, crock, and jar. Canning jar, jam jar, freezer jar, honey jar, jar lid, cookie jar, basket, can, bucket, and sack. Gunny sack, flour sack, sackcloth, cheesecloth, dust cloth, hemp twine, clothesline, rope, wood, cast iron, clay, broom, bristle, paper, hay. Butcher paper, newspaper, craft paper, wax paper, construction paper, paper bag, paper lantern, paper mache, paper doll, paper airplane too. Vinegar, bleach, feather duster, and broom. And don't forget rags. Rag dolls, rag mops, rag rugs, cleaning rags, dust rags, and more. And metal, of course. Copper pipes, brass buttons, getting down to brass tacks, steel doors, and chicken wire. Cast iron pans and aluminum foil because they go in the fire. Firebox, lunchbox, mailbox, icebox, ice house, spring house, cooler, and rubber. Rubber bands, rubber tires, foam rubber, rubber belts, rubber dolls with glass eyes, and don't forget, rubber baby buggy bumpers.
My name is John Fawcett Long, not Long John Fawcett, as a work directory once called me. I left that industry a long time ago. One thing our church and our denomination could do is take shorter showers. In fact, stop bathing altogether. Instead of UUs, we'd be called UUs. Side with love would become side 10 feet away with love. And we'd wonder why we wouldn't get invited to any more community meetings. Seriously, we know that humanity is facing an existential crisis. Our blue boat home is in grave danger. So much injustice. The poor here and around the world will suffer more, yet have been responsible for less. Time is running out. Some say this is the decade of decision. The UN Secretary General says we're dealing with a ticking climate time bomb. Amidst all this, what gives me hope? The regenerative nature of our earth gives me hope. The regenerative nature of the human spirit gives me hope. Each generation has excitement, passion, and energy for life. Privileges and capitalism being challenged gives me hope. Knowing that grassroots movements have changed the world gives me hope. India shed the British Empire, the US civil rights and women's movements made great strides. Grassroots collective action from the bottom up. This quote gives me hope. It will not be one solution at 100%, but 100 solutions at 1%. We'll continue to face denial, disinformation, dollars, despair, and distraction. We will counter with people power, with passion to preserve life. I do this work because my heart breaks knowing that future generations will not inherit such a beautiful and bountiful earth. We do not own this world, but we borrow it from future generations. Luckily, my heart is a muscle that grows back stronger. If we do nothing, if we give in to our despair and grief, the fossil fuel-based status quo and the powerful and the privileged win. Most importantly, it's not too late to act. To act out of love and compassion, it's not too late. Our minds resist change, telling us to stay in our comfort zone. But we can accept that resistance, embrace those feelings, and act anyway. And like everything, it's one small step at a time. You don't have to be an expert or a super activist. That's not required. Only you as you are is required. Martin Luther King said, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. In a quiet place and time, ask your heart and soul, what am I called to do? What is my role in restoring the earth? How can I help?
We're going to rise in body or spirit and sing Circle Round for Freedom. You probably know it. We're going to sing it once through in unison, and then those who want to join the choir in singing harmonies, if you like to, please do. We'll sing it 3 times in total. That's our starting note. Here we go. 2, ready, go. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children.
So we celebrate Earth Day. This weekend marks the 53rd Earth Day that we humans have honored, and it is an interesting holiday because it calls for so many things. It calls for celebration, it calls for a bit of grief, and it calls for action. We unfortunately celebrate this holiday because we have found ourselves living in ways that, living in ways that don't honor the earth exactly as is needed. And so this Earth Day has come about to help us right those wrongs. We are called to take action, to change policies, to reduce our carbon footprints, to dream up systems for a better future. And to be honest, it's tiring. Every year that goes by, we are confronted by more and more extreme weather events, more and more species at risk of extinction, and frankly, more and more crises in our world of all kinds that make it hard to muster up the energy to fight for climate justice. And there are so many things we can do, right? We can cut down on single-use plastics, we can eat fewer animal products, prioritize low-carbon transit options, advocate for policies, and vote for policymakers who move us towards systemic change. But it sometimes doesn't feel like enough, and we wonder if it is enough. Do we have enough to give for the enormity of the challenge that we are faced with? And this is what I want to talk about with you today because it is something that I have been struggling with. And maybe you're struggling too, and at least we can feel a little bit less alone. I want to be hopeful. I want Earth Day to be a day of celebration, and yet it feels like there is much to mourn. Year after year, it feels hard to muster up the energy. And in this year, 2023, it can be hard looking back to feel like our work for justice has significantly changed much for the better. When we look at our current situation, we see a future that is as uncertain as ever. There is no guarantee that any of our problems will be solved before it is too late. And yet, we need to remember that it's not too late. This past week, last weekend, and this weekend, a few of us had the chance to attend an event called Convergence, held with some interfaith groups downtown. It was a gathering of leaders and community members working for spiritual renewal in these complicated times as we work for justice. And if you went, please share your takeaways with any of your friends. I think it's good to spread that energy. For me, one of the big takeaways was that we need to get better at telling stories of victories. It is so easy to tell stories of loss sometimes because victories often don't feel clean and clear and straightforward. But we can tell stories of times when our work had an impact because our work does have an impact, when we are effective at making change. And so I am inspired by this challenge, and I want to tell you a story from my own experience. When I was a college student, I was part of the divestment movement. The idea was that there was going to be this big culture change. Through our activism in our system, we would end the days of our University of North Carolina's, it was like 23 schools. We were going to end our investment in fossil fuel across the state. We wanted to stop profiting off of the fossil fuel industry, stop using our collective money to fund the expansion of fossil fuel projects. And in my small organizing group, we held informational forums and film screenings. We snuck onto the top of an academic building and unfurled a giant banner to ask our new chancellor to join us. In solidarity with water protectors, we held a Valentine's Day event encouraging our peers to break up with their banks, the banks that were partly funding the Dakota Access Pipeline. A group of us went to Washington, D.C., and were part of a big march where we shut down an intersection in front of the White House. And we made art right then and there that proclaimed our generation's belief in a better future. And we won, sort of. 3 years of strategic partnership that went on long after I left, the University of North Carolina at Asheville took its money out of the hands of the statewide management company and has been slowly reinvesting that money in funds that support environmental and social good. I think last I heard they're at like 10%, but it's happening. They haven't fully divested yet, and the small liberal arts schools endowment is pretty small compared to those in the rest of the state or universities around the nation and the world. And yet, I want to feel like we have an impact. I need to remember that our small piece was part of a bigger movement. To date, it is estimated that the total value of institutions divesting from fossil fuels is about $40.5 trillion, and it's continuing to rise. It was about $39 trillion last year. And removing our schools' relatively small investments from fossil fuels didn't stop climate change from becoming a reality. $40.5 trillion didn't stop climate change from becoming a reality. The climate movement has not won once and for all and may never do so. There is so much farther to go, and I'm sure if I tried, I could offer a litany of major wins and losses in the climate movement in recent years. The list is long. Probably you know many as well. So it can feel hard to celebrate victory, but we need to try. I want to look back on this time in my life and feel a sense of pride. And I don't want to get caught up on the losses because the losses feel less ambiguous, they feel more sealed and final. I need to remember that the wins are complex, they're sometimes subtle, they sometimes wind their way betwixt and between all the difficulty that we are up against. And I would not be surprised if you also feel this way. It seems that so many people in this congregation have spent significant time in their lives in movements for social and political change, whether as career paths or volunteer activism, or making efforts to learn to do better in our personal lives. You have put in real work, and I hope you feel this and how much it is needed. And maybe you're like me, looking back and wondering if it was enough, wondering how to celebrate the victories. Maybe you're wondering how to keep going in these days of burnout and disconnection. And maybe we can look back and see times when we really had a lot of momentum and learn from those experiences. So I think back to my experience and wonder how I did it then. When I was in the divestment movement, it happened to coincide with the years that I was falling in a deep love with Southern Appalachia. The mountains around Asheville held me close. The river was my refuge on days that felt too heavy for me to hold by myself. And in deep gratitude, I praised the shady trees that kept me cool on hot summer days. For whatever reasons, this was my first experience of deep connection with the land that I lived upon. And I was learning about community then as well. My comrades in the movement were not perfectly woke intellectuals who knew the exact right strategy to move our campaign forward. They were normal people like me. We just wanted to get together and see what we could do. We made art, shared meals, and built friendships that I hold really dear to me today. The more I rooted down, the more I experienced the joy of life on this planet amidst all the beings I share it with, the more important it became for me to protect this earth, and the more I rooted down, the more energy I had, the more nourished I felt to stay in the work. And so I need to remember that these experiences of nourishment are behind me, but they're ahead of me as well. I am learning to pay attention to the life abundant in the ecosystems of the Pacific Northwest, to let the hills here hold me close, to let the waters help carry my burdens, to let the trees offer a feeling of respite. And there is community to build here and now as well, campaigns to add my voice to, whether or not we will have these grand victories that are so unambiguous and clear. And I hope you know that I'm not just talking about myself here, I am talking about all of us. There is a woman named Dr. Vandana Shiva who I have learned a lot from in my life, and she has this teaching that I think is really relevant. She is an agricultural researcher who manages a farm in the foothills of the Indian Himalayas. She teaches about ecosystems. So in an ecosystem like a farm, there are many beings who have an important role to play. There are some plants that shade other plants that are more sensitive to the sun. Some plants are adding nutrients to the soil that nourish other plants. Some repel pests, and the list goes on. In nature, a monoculture could not thrive because there needs to be different beings offering different gifts and playing different roles. And we can think of ourselves like that garden as well. When it comes to building the world we dream of, there is no point in trying to offer the best or most important contribution to the work. It is all needed. As Shiva explains it, we need diverse people offering diverse solutions to diverse problems. It is all needed. We are all needed. While my days as a student activist are behind me, I know that there are many paths ahead for fighting climate justice. And the same is true for each of us. We can't get caught up in asking if it is enough, and we cannot forget all that has already been made possible by our work. In the end, I don't know if it's possible to say what is enough, but what other option do we have? When we come to know and love the land we live upon, when we build community with those that we share it with, our souls know that it is worth fighting for, and I hope we remember we have an impact, and we are all needed. Please join this work with me. Thank you.
Please rise in body or spirit for our sending hymn. It's number 163 in the gray hymnal, if you like to read the hymnal. For the earth forever turning.
Thank you, Lisa Maynard and Scott Farrell and the Chalice Singers and Cora Angel. Deep thanks to everyone who participated in this service, most especially to the Environmental Justice team, our tech support team, and Ellen Wanless for the flower arrangements. Members, do make sure to look at your West Side Week, which you will have received on Friday, for details about upcoming events in the life of our congregation. Ahoy, mateys! Har! The clock is ticking. Our Anchors Away online auction begins in just a few hours. and opens at 4 p.m. today with over 140 fabulous items to bid on. Our fun-filled community bingo night is less than 1 week away and starts next Saturday, April 29th. Let us help you get on board today. Please visit one of our friendly auction team members in the social hall after the service and get registered now to join the festivities. For those volunteering for next Saturday's bingo night, we have a short Q&A session today in the social hall stage at 12 noon. Thank you to everyone who has given to the auction and signed up to help during bingo night. Whether you're a donor, bidder, or volunteer, each one of you is a precious part of our thriving spiritual community. It is time to identify our 2023-2024 Board of Trustees. Our 22-23 nominating committee invites you all to help us create the next slate of WSUU board members. This is an exciting time to be on the board, growing on the foundation of the great work by the current and former boards and supporting our new minister, Carter Smith. After the service, nominating committee members Steve Burrows. Steve? There you are. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Where am I here? Steve Burrows, Chris Hollinger, Megan Schumacher. They will be downstairs during social hour to answer your questions and gather suggested candidates. Our next Sunday service will be on May 14th, when we'll be joined by Reverend Sarah Shore, one of the members of our Pacific Western Region UUA staff. She'll be sharing about the Article 2 amendment process that the national UU faith community is in the midst of right now. We're asking ourselves, what does it mean to be a UU? Sarah's sermon, Love at the Center, will help ground us in this process. In the meantime, please join our Article 2 ad hoc team after social hour. There'll be a gathering at 12:15 in the fireside room where you can get up to speed on what Article 2 is and discuss any suggestions or comments that we'd like to submit as a community. Though there are many opportunities to give feedback on this process, this gathering today is especially important. The UUA is requesting submissions before the end of the month. Thanks.
So much happening in this community. Let's just experience the joy of that. As we close out our time here together this morning, this is what I wish for all of us. May we find comrades to do the work with. With those comrades, may we make space for art and creative expression. May we celebrate our wins, get silly together, live life alongside one another. May we mourn what has been lost and remind each other that all is not lost yet. May we find ways to act that are not perfectly strategic, not perfectly adequate to solve it all. May we not fret about being enough. Rather, let us bring what we have because it is all needed. May we find ourselves every day deepening in relationship with the earth and the beings we share it with. May we feel at home here. May we love this earth home. Now I'll invite Rick Taylor to release our flame. As he does so, may you go into this week blessed and blessing the world. We hold you in our love as you go.
Please rise in body or spirit for our fivefold amen.